We heard screams at midnight, but no one was there. I'm writing this because I need someone to know what happened, even if it sounds insane. It was late September when 4 of us, me, my girlfriend Kate, and our friends Trevor and Rachel, decided to take a weekend camping trip in the Cascade Mountains. We wanted somewhere remote, somewhere off-grid, as Trevor called it. He booked a primitive campsite deep in the national forest, the kind you can only reach by driving 30 miles down a dirt road and then hiking another 5 miles with all your gear. We had a giant Costco tent, a Yeti cooler crammed with beer and snacks, a couple of borrowed REI sleeping bags, and a stupidly overconfident attitude about being experienced campers. We'd done state parks before, but nothing like this. No ranger stations, no cell signal, no one around for miles. It was beautiful when we got there. Towering evergreens, soft moss underfoot, a stillness so heavy it felt like nature had swallowed us whole. We set up camp, cracked some drinks and joked around the fire until the sun disappeared. I should have known something was off when I went to grab more firewood and saw the first footprint. It was faint, maybe a few feet from our tent, but it was there. A clear boot print. Big, not one of ours. I called Kate over. "Did Trevor or Rachel walk over here?" I asked. She frowned, shaking her head. "No." "Why?" I pointed and she went pale. We both looked around, squinting into the trees, listening hard. There was nothing but the sound of wind pushing through the branches. We didn't tell Trevor or Rachel. We laughed it off. "Probably an old print," I said. "Could be from another camper." Except there weren't any other campers. We hadn't passed a single car at the trailhead, hadn't seen another soul on the hike-in. That night, as we settled into our sleeping bags, I heard a soft crunching sound outside the tent. I held my breath. Kate was already asleep, breathing slow beside me. I could hear Trevor and Rachel murmuring quietly in their tent, looking further away. But that crunching sound, it wasn't them. It was close. Way too close. I sat up, heart hammering in my chest. The signal on our tent door rustled slightly, just the tiniest vibration. I turned quiet. I wanted to call out, to ask if anyone was out there, but something deep in my gut told me not to. And then, just like that, the sound was gone. I sat there, frozen, until the first pale light of dawn began to seep into the tent. When I stepped outside, I found something that made my stomach twist into knots. A pile of small, neatly stacked rocks right outside the tent door. 3 smooth, round stones balanced on top of each other like some kind of marker. None of us had put it there. None of us knew what it meant. And that was just the start. By the time the others crawled out of their tents, I was already pacing around the site, trying to calm myself down. "What's up, man?" Trevor asked, rubbing his eyes and yawning. "You look like you didn't sleep." I gestured to the stacked rocks. "Did you or Rachel do this?" He squinted at them, then let out a short laugh. "Dude, no. We were passed out." "You sure Kate didn't?" "I didn't," Kate cut in sharply from behind me. She wrapped her arms around herself, eyes darting nervously. Rachel stepped up next, frowning. "What is it? Like a trail marker or something?" I shook my head. It was right outside our tent. It wasn't there last night. Trevor's grin faltered slightly. Maybe a ranger or another camper? But we all knew that wasn't possible. We were miles off the nearest trail, and the only tracks we'd seen were old, faded prints. except for that one fresh boot mark near the trees. I glanced back at the tree line, the dark gaps between the trees suddenly feeling way too wide, like 100 eyes could be staring back from inside. Kate nudged me. Let's just pack up today and head back. But Trevor shook his head. Come on, we just got here. Probably just some hiker messing around. If they wanted to mess with us, they would have stuck around. Rachel smiled thinly. Yeah, it's probably nothing. We all pretended to agree, but there was a tightness in the air that didn't go away. We spent the day hiking, trying to shake off the unease, but every time I thought I heard something, a twig snapping, the rustle of leaves, my stomach clenched. At one point, we passed through a narrow ravine with sheer rock walls. As we squeezed through, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. Carved into the stone, just at shoulder height, was a crude smiley face. I stopped, staring. It wasn't old. The scratches were fresh, bright white against the weathered grey. Guys, I called softly. But when they came back to look, Trevor just shrugged. Okay, that's creepy. But maybe some dumb teenager carved it. Here? I asked. Who the hell's carving smiley faces here? Trevor rolled his eyes. Dude, chill. You're getting paranoid. But when I looked at Kate, I could see the same thing I was feeling reflected in her face. That creeping, gnawing sense that we weren't alone out here. We decided to head back to camp before dark. None of us said it out loud, but we wanted to be back near the tents, near the fire. We wanted the illusion of safety. That night, as we sat around the fire, no one was joking anymore. We drank quietly, watching the shadows stretch out between the trees. It was around midnight when we heard it. A scream. High-pitched, ragged, and distant. But not that distant. We all froze, eyes wide, mouths slightly open. What the fuck was that? Rachel whispered, clutching her coat tighter. Trevor stood slowly. Probably a coyote, he said, though his voice cracked slightly. I shook my head. No, that was a person. We sat there for a long moment, straining our ears. Nothing. Then, just when we thought it was over, another scream. Closer. This time, Kate shot to her feet, grabbing my arm. We need to go, she hissed. Something's wrong. Trevor tried to play it cool, but even he was visibly shaken now. It's probably someone messing around, or a drunk hiker or something. Who the fuck hikes out here drunk? Rachel snapped. No one answered. We doused the fire, retreating into the tents. We didn't even say goodnight. Inside, Kate clutched my arm, trembling. That was when I realized something that made my blood run cold. I hadn't heard any footsteps. No crunch of leaves. No snapping twigs. Just the screams. As if whoever was out there was standing completely still, waiting. I barely slept. Every sound outside felt amplified. Every rustle, every creak of the tent fabric, every gust of wind through the trees. Kate lay stiff beside me, gripping my wrist so tight her nails dug into my skin. She didn't say a word. Neither of us wanted to break the silence. I kept checking my phone, but of course, no signal. The battery icon taunted me, 12%. At some point, I heard the zipper on Trevor and Rachel's tent slide open. I held my breath, listening. Footsteps, light ones, cautious. I peeked through the thin mesh of our tent window and saw Trevor, barefoot, his hoodie half zipped, slowly walking toward the edge of the trees. "Trevor!" I hissed. He turned his head sharply, finger to his lips. I saw his mouth move. I heard something. He disappeared into the trees. Kate let out a tiny, panicked breath. "No, no, no," she whispered. I grabbed the flashlight and unzipped the tent as quietly as I could. "Stay here," I mouthed. "No," she mouthed back, eyes wild. "Don't go." But Trevor was my friend. I couldn't just sit there. I slipped out barefoot, the cold dirt biting into my soles. My breath felt loud, too loud. I reached the tree line, clicked on the flashlight and whispered, "Trevor?" No answer. "Trevor," I said, a little louder, panic bubbling up. I swung the light side to side. Trees, shadows, nothing. And then a figure bolted out of the trees, running straight at me. I stumbled back, heart seizing, before realizing it was Trevor. His face was pale, eyes wide, mouth open but making no sound. I caught him by the shoulders. "Dude, what the fuck?" he gasped, grabbing handfuls of my jacket. "There's someone out there," he panted. "Someone fucking out there." We both spun as we heard footsteps, fast, heavy footsteps, coming from the dark. Not an animal, not a hiker, not anything normal. Trevor and I sprinted back toward camp, crashing through the underbrush, not caring how loud we were. Kate was outside the tent, clutching a camp knife, her face twisted in terror. Rachel stood behind her, shaking violently. "What happened?" Kate cried. We barely had time to answer. Someone, burst out of the trees. It was a man, thin, maybe 6 feet tall, wearing filthy clothes, dark hair hanging in his face. He just stood there, a few feet from the edge of our camp, breathing hard, watching us. My skin prickled all over. "Who are you?" Trevor shouted, voice cracking. "What the fuck do you want?" The man tilted his head, smiling slightly. And then he turned and walked back into the trees. "What the fuck?" Rachel screamed. We backed toward the fire pit, huddling together, shaking, whispering in panicked bursts. "Was he following you?" Kate hissed at Trevor. "I don't know. I didn't see him until I turned back." We argued over what to do. Waited out until morning, or pack up and leave in the middle of the night. Rachel kept muttering, "He's gone, right? He's gone." But I couldn't stop thinking about the way he looked at us. Calm, like he had all the time in the world. And that's when I realized something that made my stomach drop. If he'd wanted to, he could have hurt us right then. He didn't, because he was playing with us. We didn't sleep. We sat around the cold fire pit, backs to each other, flashlights clutched in shaking hands, waiting for the sky to lighten. Rachel cried quietly. Kate rocked slightly, gripping the camp knife so tight her knuckles turned white. Trevor paced in a slow circle, whispering, "Fuck, fuck, fuck," over and over under his breath. Every time a branch snapped or a shadow shifted, we flinched. I kept thinking, why didn't we leave already? Because we were frozen. Because it's one thing to talk about packing up in the dark. It's another to walk through 5 miles of pitch black forest when you know someone is out there, watching. It was about 3 a.m. when we noticed our gear was gone. Not all of it, just enough to make our blood run cold. Kate turned on her flashlight to check the food bag. "Where's the cooler?" she whispered. The Yeti cooler, the one packed with all our food and water, was gone. So were Trevor's hiking boots, Rachel's fleece jacket, my phone. We hadn't heard anything. No, 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 Rachel sobbed, hands clapped over her mouth. Okay, listen, Trevor said, forcing calm into his voice, though his eyes were darting wildly. We still have the tents, right? We wait until first light, then we fucking run. Kate grabbed my arm. We need water. We can't just run with nothing. Trevor shook his head. It doesn't matter. We need to move. Whoever's out here, they're trying to wear us down. We all knew it. This wasn't random. Someone was picking at us piece by piece. We waited. The hours crawled. Somewhere around 4 a.m., we heard movement again. Not in the trees, but in the camp. Trevor lunged for the flashlight beam, whipping it around. No one. But then Kate let out a sound I'll never forget. A thin, choked-off whimper. "Where's the tent?" she whispered. I spun. One of the tents, our tent, was gone. Gone. Not collapsed, not torn, not moved aside. Fucking gone. Like someone had silently lifted it and carried it off into the woods. Rachel broke, full-on sobbing now. Trevor just stood there, staring, mouth slightly open. "Okay," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Okay, we're leaving. Now." We grabbed what little we had left. A single flashlight, Kate's knife, Rachel's phone at 8% battery, no signal, and the clothes on our backs. We didn't even try to follow the trail. We just ran. Through the trees, over roots and rocks, slipping, stumbling, gasping. Somewhere behind us, I swear I heard soft laughter. Not loud, not close, just drifting, mocking. Kate fell once, scraping her knee, and I yanked her up so hard she yelped. Come on, I hissed. Branches whipped our faces, thorns tore at our legs. Somewhere in the chaos, Rachel lost her phone. Trevor kept looking over his shoulder, eyes wide. I swear he's back there, he panted. I swear to God. And then we saw the lights, faint glimmers through the trees, like headlights. We stumbled toward them, sobbing with relief. But as we broke through the last line of trees, we skidded to a stop. Because it wasn't a car, it was lanterns, dozens of them, hung from the branches, glowing softly, swaying in the breeze. We all just stood there, panting, shaking, staring. The lanterns hadn't been there yesterday. Someone had set them up. For us. Kate whimpered, "We're not going to make it out, are we?" And I had no answer. I still don't. I don't know how long we stood there. 4 of us, wide-eyed, sucking in cold air, staring at those goddamn lanterns. They weren't just random, I realized. They were arranged. Circles, patterns, strung between trees at varying heights, swaying ever so gently. Trevor was the first to speak, his voice hoarse. "Who the fuck does this?" No one answered. I turned slowly, flashlight beam shaking over the dark woods behind us, half expecting to see him. That man, that thing, standing just at the edge of the light, smiling. But there was nothing. Kate squeezed my arm, whispering, "We can't go back." "No shit," Trevor shot back, voice cracking into a laugh that wasn't really a laugh. Rachel, pale and shaking, clutched her chest. I can't breathe." We circled up, backs pressed together, watching every direction. I thought about the boots we left behind, the water, the food. How fucking stupid we were, thinking we were off-grid adventurers because we bought good gear at REI and had a decent tent. We weren't ready for this. Nobody is. Kate suddenly tensed beside me. Did you hear that? We all froze. A soft rustling, maybe 50 feet to our left. Not an animal, no scampering, no snuffling. Deliberate, careful. Then, barely audible, a voice. Where? Are you going? Rachel let out a scream so sharp I thought my eardrums would burst. Trevor grabbed my arm, yanking me into motion. Run! We bolted, through the hanging lanterns, past the circle, crashing blindly into the trees beyond. We didn't know where we were going. We just ran. Branches whipped across my face. My ankle twisted on a hidden root. I stumbled, caught myself, kept going. Behind me I could hear Rachel sobbing, gasping, begging, "Please, please, no, please." We didn't stop. We couldn't. At some point the trees thinned and we found ourselves at the edge of a rocky slope. Below us, a narrow black river, glinting faintly in the starlight. I turned, breathless, trembling. We can't cross that. Trevor's eyes darted wildly. We have to. He's... Snap. A branch breaking, somewhere above us. We all whipped around, and there he was, standing at the top of the slope, silhouetted against the trees. Not moving, just watching. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Kate pulled me hard. Go! We scrambled down the slope, slipping on loose rocks, sliding into the cold water. It was icy, the shock of it stealing the breath from my lungs. We splashed across, half swimming, half staggering, until we hit the opposite bank and collapsed in the mud. For a long, frozen moment, we just lay there, gasping. Then I rolled over and looked back. He hadn't followed. He just stood there on the far side, watching. And then, slowly, he raised his hand and waved. Not a frantic wave, not a signal. A slow, calm, playful wave. Like he knew. Like he was saying, "See you soon." I wanted to throw up. Trevor pulled himself up, shaking violently. We have to keep going. We have to. I nodded, feeling hollow, numb, not even sure if my legs would carry me. Kate clutched my sleeve, her teeth chattering uncontrollably. Rachel just sat there, rocking slightly, whispering, "This isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real." But it was. It is. And somehow, deep down, we all knew. We weren't getting out of these woods tonight. We stumbled through the dark, soaked, freezing, barely able to keep moving. Every few minutes, Trevor would stop and spin around, flashlights shaking wildly over the trees. "He's still out there," he kept muttering. "I know he's still out there." Rachel wasn't talking anymore, just wide, vacant eyes and trembling hands. Kate clung to me so tight it hurt, but I didn't tell her to let go. We didn't know where we were going. We were just moving because stopping felt like death. Around 5 a.m., the woods began to lighten. Not sunrise, just that faint, cold, pre-dawn glow that turns everything grey. We hit an old trail, not the one we came in on, a different one. Trevor let out a choked laugh. Holy shit, we might make it. We followed it, barely able to lift our feet, every muscle screaming. And that's when we saw the cabin. Just off the trail, half hidden by the trees. A small, weathered structure, windows boarded, roof sagging. Is that a ranger station?" Rachel whispered, her voice raw. I squinted. No sign, no markings. Doesn't matter, Trevor said. It's shelter. Kate hesitated. What if it's his? We all stood there, breathing hard, staring. And then we heard it. Movement in the trees, not far behind us. That decided it. We ran to the cabin, Trevor reaching it first, yanking at the door. It's open, he hissed. We piled inside, slamming the door behind us, shoving a broken chair up under the handle. The inside was dark and musty, the air heavy with rot and dust. Old cans on shelves, an overturned cot in the corner, scraps of cloth and rope on the floor. Fuck, Trevor muttered, pacing. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Kate crouched beside me, shaking. Do you think he saw us come in? I didn't answer. Because I knew. We all knew. There was a sound outside. A soft shuffle, just beyond the wall. Then, a quiet tap on the window. Rachel whimpered, curling in on herself. Trevor froze mid-step, eyes darting. And then, a voice. Right outside the door, low and calm, like someone talking to a friend. I was wondering when you'd find this place. I felt everything drain out of me. I looked at Kate, and she looked at me, and for one awful second, we both knew we weren't going to get out of this. Trevor let out a yell, grabbing a rusted pipe from the floor, holding it like a bat. Get the fuck out, he screamed, but the voice outside just laughed, soft, almost gentle, and then the door handle rattled, and rattled, and rattled, until suddenly, silence. We didn't move. We sat there, huddled in the dark, too afraid to breathe. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Eventually, sunlight began to filter in through cracks in the boards. We crept to the window, cautiously peeling back the edge of a rotted board. The woods were empty, no footprints, no sign of anyone. Just stillness. And then we saw it, carved into the wood of the door, right above the handle. A single word, soon. We left the cabin in broad daylight, shaking, limping, dragging ourselves down the trail until, by some miracle, we hit the dirt road and flagged down a passing truck. We never went back for our gear, we never filed a report. Because what would we even say? Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the tapping. I still hear the voice. And sometimes, when I look out my window, I swear I see someone at the edge of the woods, waiting. Because he wasn't just some random lunatic in the mountains. He knew who we were. And I don't think he's done with us yet. She vanished from the tent. Only her shoes remained. I still don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe if I get it all down, I'll stop hearing her voice in my head. It was supposed to be a couples weekend. Me, my girlfriend Kayla, and our two friends, Chris and Jenna. We'd been planning it for months, a long weekend camping in the Tetons. Just the four of us, off-grid, no cell service, no stress. We were all late 20s, Instagram-addicted urbanites from Denver, so roughing it for 3 nights felt like a cool challenge, like something we could brag about later. We packed all the good gear from REI, a massive Costco tent, a Yeti cooler stuffed with white claws, a tiny jet boil for coffee. I even got this stupid fancy survival knife on Amazon, still in its box. The first day was perfect. We hiked, we drank, we laughed our asses off, making fun of Jenna's biodegradable toilet paper rolls. The air was sharp, the trees massive, and the Tetons loomed over us like stone giants. That night, we built a fire and toasted marshmallows, and Kayla made me promise we'd do this every year. But then, after midnight, I woke up. At first, I thought it was just the wind rattling the tent. But no. There was something outside. Something pacing. I held my breath. The others were dead asleep, snoring softly. I strained to hear past the blood rushing in my ears. Crunch. Soft footsteps in the undergrowth. Slow, measured, deliberate. I whispered, "Kayla?" She didn't stir. I unzipped the tent just an inch. Enough to peek through. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear it outside. But I saw nothing. Just black trees and pale moonlight on the clearing. I told myself it was probably a deer, maybe an elk. We were in their backyard after all. But when I finally drifted back to sleep, I could have sworn I heard a faint, low chuckle from the trees. Morning came like a slap. I jolted awake to Kayla shaking me, whispering, "Hey, did you hear anything last night?" My mouth was dry. "What?" She looked pale, her blonde hair sticking up messily. "I woke up around 3. You were asleep. I swear someone was walking around outside." That hit me like a punch to the gut. I hadn't told her anything about what I heard. Chris and Jenna were already up, boiling water for coffee. I pulled on my hoodie and boots, stepping outside. "Morning," Chris yawned, tossing me a packet of instant oatmeal. "Rough night?" I scanned the clearing, heart thumping. The ground was still damp from dew and, yeah, maybe I was being paranoid. But there were marks. Not clear footprints, not really, but patches where the grass had been flattened, bent under weight. I knelt beside one near our tent. My skin prickled. These weren't ours. "Babe, it's probably just an animal," Kayla said, her voice trying to sound light, but her eyes were tight. I wanted to believe that. God, I wanted to. But the thing is, near the back of our tent, I found something else. A cigarette butt. We don't smoke. None of us. I called Chris over. "Dude, look at this." He frowned. "Seriously? Out here? Shit. You think there's someone else camping nearby?" Jenna chimed in. "We haven't seen anyone since we got here." And she was right. Our site was remote, miles from the next trailhead. We'd picked it on purpose because it was quiet, secluded. We hadn't passed another soul yesterday. Suddenly, the fun, adventure vibe was gone. Breakfast was tense. We kept glancing into the trees. I remember Jenna laughing too loud at one of Chris's dumb jokes, like she was forcing it, trying to break the tension. By afternoon, we tried to brush it off. We hiked up to a small overlook, took pictures. Kayla posted one to Instagram when we hit a patch of signal, captioned "Mountain Queen." But when we got back to camp near sunset, something was wrong. The tent flap was unzipped. We'd left it shut. Kayla's backpack, the one with her snacks and water bottle, was outside, lying in the dirt. Inside the tent, her wallet was open, cash missing. Not all of it, just some. Whoever went through her stuff wanted us to know they'd been there. That was when Jenna wanted to leave. She was shaking, near tears, saying we should pack up and hike back to the car. But the sun was already dipping behind the trees. The car was miles away, over rough trails. Hiking out at night wasn't safe. Chris tried to play peacemaker, but I could tell even he was rattled. We set up a watch system for the night, taking turns staying up by the fire. At midnight, when it was my shift, I sat there gripping that stupid Amazon knife I'd never even taken out of the plastic. That's when I saw him, at the tree line, just a shadow, tall, too tall, not moving, watching. I blinked, heart in my throat. The fire crackled, the embers popping. He didn't flinch. I wanted to wake the others, but I was frozen, paralyzed by the sheer wrongness of it. And then, after what felt like forever, the figure lifted a hand and waved. Slowly, mockingly. I almost pissed myself. I blinked again, and he was gone. Just like that. I rushed to wake Chris, shaking him hard. Man, get up. Get the fuck up, someone's out there. We spent the rest of the night huddled by the fire, all four of us, clutching sticks and knives and pretending we weren't terrified. I don't know when I fell asleep, but when I woke up, Kayla was gone, and all she left behind were her shoes sitting neatly outside the tent flap. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at those shoes. They were her trail runners. The grey and teal Brooks pair she'd bought last month at REI, still a little scuffed from yesterday's hike. Kayla never went anywhere barefoot. Never. Kayla, I croaked, my voice cracking. Chris sat up fast, rubbing his eyes. What? What's wrong? I pointed with a shaking hand. He followed my gaze, his face went pale. Where the fuck is she? He whispered. Jenna crawled out of her sleeping bag, hair tangled, eyes wide. What's going on? We scrambled out of the tent, calling her name. I circled the clearing, heart racing so hard I thought it might explode. Kayla! Kayla, are you here? Baby? My throat was raw. Nothing. Just the whisper of wind through the pines, the smell of last night's ashes, and the cold, damp earth underfoot. We checked the trail. We checked the trees. We checked the creek a few yards down. Even though I could barely bring myself to look, terrified I'd find her face down in the water. But there was nothing. No footprints, no broken branches, no note. Just those shoes and the part that still keeps me up at night. They were lined up, perfectly, neatly, side by side, like someone had taken them off her, piece by piece. Chris was pacing, his hands in his hair. Jenna was sobbing, rocking on a log. We have to go, I muttered. We have to go now. Chris shook his head. Dude, it's 6 miles back to the car. We should wait for daylight, figure out if maybe she didn't just wander off, man, I shouted, louder than I meant to. She wouldn't leave without her fucking shoes. There was a long silence. Then Jenna whispered, what if he took her? Nobody asked who he was. We all knew. We packed fast, shoved everything into our bags, half zipped, half done. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely roll up the tent poles. And then, shh, Chris hissed, raising a hand. We froze. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from the direction of the creek. We ducked down, eyes wide, barely breathing. I could see him, a man. Not a hiker, not a ranger, not anyone you'd want to meet in the woods. He was tall, thin, wearing a stained brown jacket and baggy jeans, no backpack, no gear. His hair hung in greasy clumps around his face, and his eyes, oh God, his eyes, were wide and wild, like he hadn't slept in days, maybe weeks. He was holding something. I squinted, heart hammering. It was Kayla's jacket. He dragged it along the ground, letting the sleeves snag on rocks and roots, as if daring us to come get it. I clapped a hand over Jenna's mouth before she could scream. Chris whispered, "Stay down." We crouched there, all three of us, watching through the thin branches. The man walked into our clearing, right up to the fire pit. He looked around, sniffing the air. And then he grinned, this big, slow, toothy grin. He turned, staring right at the bush we were hiding behind. And he whispered, "Where's your girl?" I don't remember much after that. Just the surge of panic, the jolt of adrenaline as we tore through the trees, running blind, branches whipping at our faces, packs bouncing on our backs. We ran until my legs gave out. We ran until we couldn't hear him behind us. Or maybe we just couldn't hear anything over the sound of our own ragged gasps. And when we finally stopped, collapsed in a heap on the forest floor, I realized something that made my blood run cold. He'd let us go. He wanted us to run. This wasn't over, not even close. We should have stayed together. I know that now. But when you're that deep in panic, when your brain is screaming run, all logic goes out the window. We bolted in 3 directions. I don't even remember when we split. One minute we were crashing through the undergrowth together. The next it was just me, alone, stumbling and tripping over roots, slamming through branches, scraping my arms bloody. I could barely see. I had no flashlight, no map, no bearings. Just a half-dead phone in my pocket and the raw terror driving me forward. At one point I crashed down on my knees, gasping, chest on fire, legs cramping. I gagged and almost threw up. That's when I heard it. Snap. Not an animal, not some harmless rustling. A heavy step. Deliberate. Slow, I clapped a hand over my mouth, biting down a sob. Peering around the thick trunk of a tree, I caught a glimpse of something moving in the trees. That tall figure again. That same ratty brown jacket. Those jerky, almost playful movements. He wasn't running. He was strolling. Enjoying this. Like we were mice in a maze. I forced myself up, staggering forward. My foot hit something hard, a rock maybe, and I tumbled forward onto the ground, landing hard on my elbow. Pain shot up my arm, but worse, far worse. My phone skittered out of my pocket, screen lighting up for a second as it hit the dirt. I grabbed for it, heart hammering. 1% battery. The screen flickered, glowed dimly, and then went black. Dead. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat there, hunched over in the dirt, shaking, fighting this raw, primal urge to just break down. That's when I saw the light. A small flicker, maybe 50 yards ahead. A fire. Another campsite. My heart surged with desperate hope. I staggered toward it, clawing through the brush, ignoring the cuts on my hands. I burst into the small clearing, breathless, and stopped cold. It was our campfire. Our camp. The one we'd fled hours ago. Our tent was still there, torn open, sagging to one side. The cooler was tipped over, cans scattered. One of Chris's boots lay on its side near the fire pit. I spun in a circle, shaking. How the hell? I had run blind. I had no idea where I was going. And somehow I had looped right back. Or maybe... No. He had led me back. Something moved behind the tent. I froze, heart slamming so loud I could barely hear. A figure stepped into view, and for one insane second, I thought it was Chris. But no, it was him, the man, and in his hand, dangling casually from 2 fingers, was Kayla's necklace. The little gold one she never took off, the one her mum had given her when she turned 20. I choked on a sob. He looked at me, tilting his head, and then slowly, deliberately, he held a finger up to his lips. Shh. I turned and ran. I don't remember how far. I don't remember how long. Branches whipped my face, tore at my jacket. My legs were jelly. My lungs felt like they were going to burst. But I kept going, because behind me I could hear him. Not running, not chasing, just laughing, low and hoarse, like he already knew, like this was just the start. We should have stayed together. I know that now. But when you're that deep in panic, when your brain is screaming run, all logic goes out the window. We bolted in 3 directions. I don't even remember when we split. 1 minute we were crashing through the undergrowth together. The next it was just me, alone, stumbling and tripping over roots, slamming through branches, scraping my arms bloody. I could barely see. I had no flashlight, no map, no bearings. Just a half-dead phone in my pocket and the raw terror driving me forward. At one point I crashed down on my knees, gasping, chest on fire, legs cramping. I gagged and almost threw up. That's when I heard it. Snap. Not an animal, not some harmless rustling. A heavy step. Deliberate. Slow. I clapped a hand over my mouth, biting down a sob. Peering around the thick trunk of a tree, I caught a glimpse of something moving in the trees. That tall figure again. That same ratty brown jacket. Those jerky, almost playful movements. He wasn't running. He was strolling. Enjoying this. Like we were mice in a maze. I forced myself up, staggering forward. My foot hit something hard. A rock, maybe. And I tumbled forward onto the ground, landing hard on my elbow. Pain shot up my arm. But worse, far worse. My phone skittered out of my pocket, screen lighting up for a second as it hit the dirt. I grabbed for it, heart hammering. 1% battery. The screen flickered, glowed dimly, and then went black. Dead. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat there, hunched over in the dirt, shaking, fighting this raw, primal urge to just break down. That's when I saw the light. A small flicker, maybe 50 yards ahead. A fire. Another campsite. My heart surged with desperate hope. I staggered toward it, clawing through the brush, ignoring the cuts on my hands. I burst into the small clearing, breathless, and stopped cold. It was our campfire. Our camp. The one we'd fled hours ago. Our tent was still there, torn open, sagging to one side. The cooler was tipped over, cans scattered. One of Chris's boots lay on its side near the fire pit. I spun in a circle, shaking. How the hell? I had run blind. I had no idea where I was going. And somehow I had looped right back. Or maybe... No. He had led me back. Something moved behind the tent. I froze, heart slamming so loud I could barely hear. A figure stepped into view. and for one insane second I thought it was Chris. But no, it was him, the man, and in his hand, dangling casually from 2 fingers, was Kayla's necklace. The little gold one she never took off, the one her mum had given her when she turned 20. I choked on a sob. He looked at me, tilting his head, and then, slowly, deliberately, he held a finger up to his lips. Shh. I turned and ran. I don't remember how far. I don't remember how long. Branches whipped my face, tore at my jacket. My legs were jelly. My lungs felt like they were going to burst. But I kept going, because behind me I could hear him, not running, not chasing, just laughing, low and hoarse, like he already knew, like this was just the start. I don't know how I didn't pass out. I ran until my legs buckled, collapsing onto cold, damp ground, gasping, wheezing, sucking air like a dying fish. It was dark now, fully, completely dark. No moonlight, no stars, just black trees, black sky, and the heavy, crushing silence pressing in from all sides. I curled up on the forest floor, shaking so hard I could barely keep my teeth from rattling. My fingers were scraped raw, my hoodie was torn at the shoulder. One boot was untied, the laces tangled from God knows when. And still I could hear him. That slow, wet laugh, somewhere out there. I tried to tell myself it was just the wind. My brain was making things up, filling in gaps, but deep down I knew. He was toying with me. At some point, I don't know how much later, I forced myself to my feet. I had to find Chris, Jenna, somebody. I stumbled forward, clawing at the trees to keep from falling. My throat was dry, lips cracked, hands trembling so bad I couldn't even make a proper fist. Somewhere, in the distance, I heard a voice. "Hello?" It was Chris. Oh my God, it was Chris. I broke into a shambling run, stumbling toward the sound, half sobbing. "Chris, Chris, I'm here!" I tore through the brush, branches slapping my face, snagging my hoodie. I burst into a clearing, stopped, cold. Chris stood there, under a tree. But something was wrong. His arms were hanging at his sides. His head was tilted at a weird angle, chin resting almost on his shoulder. "Chris?" I whispered. He didn't answer, didn't move. And then, slowly, he lifted his head, and I saw his face. His mouth was duct-taped. His eyes were wide, bulging, bloodshot. Behind him, just barely visible in the dark, a figure stepped out of the trees. The man. He had one arm wrapped tight around Chris's chest, holding him upright, and with the other hand, he raised a finger to his lips. Shh. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run, to lunge forward, to do something, but I was frozen, locked in place, heart hammering so hard I thought I might black out. The man leaned down, mouth near Chris's ear. He said something. I couldn't hear what, and then shoved Chris forward. Chris stumbled, tripped, and went down hard on his knees. That's when I saw it. A knife, gleaming in the man's hand. I ran. I ran so hard I think I left part of my soul behind. I could hear Chris struggling, muffled screams, thrashing, and then a horrible, wet sound that will haunt me until the day I die. I don't remember how far I got. I don't remember falling. But at some point I hit the ground hard and everything went black. When I came to, it was morning, grey light filtering through the trees, birds chirping, like the world had reset, like nothing had happened. Except I was alone. No Chris, no Jenna, no Kayla, no sign of our camp, our gear or anything. Just me lying on cold dirt, shaking, soaked in sweat. And when I sat up, there in front of me was a neat little pile. Kayla's necklace, Chris's boot, Jenna's scarf, all stacked, perfectly arranged. And next to them, a note, written in jagged, childish letters on the back of a torn map. You're next. I don't remember standing. I don't remember screaming. I just remember the way my breath rattled in my throat. This broken, high-pitched wheeze I couldn't stop, like an animal choking on its own panic. I picked up the note. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely read it. You're next. Written in thick, uneven strokes, like it had been carved into the paper by a knife point. I dropped it, turned in a slow circle. Nothing. No tents, no paths, no footprints. Just endless, identical trees stretching out in every direction. Somewhere deep inside I knew I wasn't going to find them. Not Kayla, not Chris, not Jenna. They were gone. I started walking. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. The sun crept higher, burning weakly through the clouds. I stumbled over roots, scraped my hands, fell to my knees more than once. I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see him there. The man with the greasy hair, the brown jacket, the crooked smile. But he was gone. Or maybe he was watching. I'll never know. I don't know how many hours passed before I found the road. When I saw the strip of cracked asphalt through the trees, I collapsed right there, sobbing, shaking so hard I could barely crawl forward. A car came by, an old pickup, dusty and rust red. The driver, a rancher maybe, slammed the brakes when he saw me, jumped out, yelling something I couldn't understand. I remember his hands on my shoulders, his voice sharp, urgent. I remember the way his face went pale when I croaked out, "There's someone in the woods." I remember riding in the back of his truck, clutching a dirty blanket, staring out at the trees whipping past, half expecting to see a figure standing at the edge, waving goodbye. The police never found anything. They searched for days. Helicopters, dogs, volunteers. Nothing. No bodies, no gear, no sign that we were ever even there. Just me, alone, babbling about a man no one could trace, no one could describe. At some point they stopped asking questions, stopped calling me. I left Denver 6 months ago, moved across the country, got a shitty little apartment in a city where no one knows my name. I don't camp anymore. I don't hike. I don't go near the woods. And some nights, late, when I'm lying awake, staring at the ceiling, I swear I can still hear the sound of him laughing. Soft, low, right outside my window. And that's the truth. She vanished from the tent. Only her shoes remained. And I still don't know why he let me go.